Don't settle for fakes. My duel-taining is the real deal.
The guide to chronomalies. Chronomalies is an archetype comprised of, artifacts that were made by civilizations but are more advanced than what you'd think the civilization would be able to do. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of like that one deck that this old guy in 5Ds plays, except actually playable. In the OCG, Chronomaly was actually a really good deck for a while. In the late 2013, early 2014 metagame, Chronomaly was like one of the best decks, second only to Dragon Rulers, believe it or not. Unfortunately, this did not happen in the TCG because, you know, one of the most important cards in the archetype was released 2 years late. But fortunately for Duel Links, we do have this card just in time for Chronomaly to become potentially a really good deck again. So here we go. Main deck monsters. Chronomaly Nebra Disc is really fantastic. On normal, it searches any other Chronomaly and it can special summon itself from grave if you control another Chronomaly. Just a really good card all around, and you know, the reason why Chronomaly was even a good deck in the OCG to begin with. Always pro 3 of this card. I guess you can make the deck from Chung with 2, but 3 is just so much better. Chronomaly Tuspar Rocket. Foolishes on summon, and you know, the attack reduction is sometimes relevant, but more often than not, you can use it to send Nebra Disc immediately to the grave in order to have 2 materials on the field for an XC summon, which is really cool. It also has a weird inheritance effect when used as material for the XC summon of a number monster, allowing it to attack twice, but only other monsters, so it's not that relevant, but it's still kind of nice to have. Play 2/3 of these cards, also it's free to play, so, you know, go crazy. Go wild. 2/3. Chronomaly Moe is just a free special. It's just a free special. Play 2/3 of this guy. It's just a free special. Chronomaly Crystal Bones is also a free special. Sort of. If you control no monster, you can special it, and then you can special a Chronomaly from grave. Play 2/3 of this guy, I guess. Chronomaly Crystal Skull is not a monster you're gonna summon most of the time, but you're gonna discard it in order to search for any Chronomaly in your deck. This is your main target of Nebra Disc summon, because then you can discard it to get Maui, and then you have 2 Chronomaly cards in grave, which is really amazing. Play 1 or 2 of this guy. You don't really want to open it, but it's not the worst if you do, but it's really good as a card that you can search, and not really good as a top deck, as you can imagine. Last but not least, for the Chronomalies worth mentioning, Guardian Knot is also part of the new wave of supports, and it's not the greatest. It competes for the normal with Nebra Disc, but it's a decent budget-ish option if you want to have 12 Chronomaly monsters with the skill and can't afford to get some more Nebra Discs. So if you're gonna play it, play 2. 2 is fine. Don't play more. 1 is probably not enough if you want to rely on it, but you are most likely gonna play 0. The other Chronomaly monsters are not worth talking about, unfortunately. They're just kind of bad. They're just not as good as the one that are free starters and specials, sorry. Extra deck monsters! Chronomaly Vimana is the main reason to build Chronomaly at the moment. It's basically a reusable monster negate that, you know, recharges itself every turn. It can use its effect in the damage step in order to get a sudden attack boost. It is once per copy, but not once per turn, meaning that if you have 2 Vimanas, you can use both in order to negate 2 monsters on the field, which is pretty decent. And it's just a really cool, really big monster. Really cool, really big. Play 2/3 of this guy depending on how you want to configure your extra deck. Chronomaly Chateau Yugioh is your default rank 4 option. It's fine, I guess. You can drop a monster's attack to 0, doesn't negate its effect though. And then it can destroy a monster whose attack is 0, but only during your turn. So this one is still okay-ish, I guess. Play 2, it's fine. Chronomaly Machimek is your other rank 5 option, and this one is not nearly as good, unfortunately. It's wow, it's I don't think I've ever read it actually, but it's mostly there as a target for the skill to send, so play 1 or 2 in your extra deck, but don't expect to summon this often. By the way, have you ever noticed its face? The Utopia package, meaning Utopia and Utopia Lightning, is also pretty standard for this deck, because with the skill you can still summon those because they are light and number monsters, which are pretty cool, right? It's pretty decent, rank 4 option in order to close out games, because the Lightning is an absolutely crazy card, and yeah, just play 1 of each. Last but not least, I wanted to mention Chronomaly Atlantis, because such a cool looking card, but unfortunately it doesn't have a place in the deck. It does have a really good effect on paper, but then you realize that you have to devote at least 2 extra deck space to it in order to be able to summon it in the first place. It's not worth it, I'm sorry. It's just not good enough. I'm sorry. Back row. Chronomaly technology is absolutely crazy. It works fantastic with the skill. It allows you to basically scry to by banishing a Chronomaly monster in your graveyard and add one to your hand and send the other card to your graveyard. And it's basically set up the graveyard for V-mana. It allows you to dig deeper for your tech cards. Just a fantastic card all around. Unfortunately, you only have it at 1 copy, so play the one that we do have. Chronomaly Temple is an interesting card. It is searchable off of Nebrodisc, just like technology. But it seems really good on paper, like the extra normal it can be nice, but you don't really need it because you have so many specials. The ability to send itself to graveyard instead of detaching a material sounds really cool, but then you realize the mana can already reload itself. It's just not worth it, I'm sorry. You can experiment with one, I wouldn't recommend it. It's better to play none in my opinion, sorry. And last but not least, this one is not a Chronomaly card per se, but I think it's still important to mention. Barrage Blast allows you to detach Xyz materials from a machine Xyz monster you control to pop that many cards on the field. V-mana is a machine, and it reloads itself, meaning you can use the V-mana in order to negate a monster and then activate its effect to gain material, and then you can use Barrage Blast to pop a card on the field. It's really good disruption. That is not searchable, but you can dig for it with the technology. It's a really good card. Play 2/2/3 of this card. I'm not gonna talk about all the tech cards in back row because they're more generic, but this one I think deserves a special mention. That's pretty much it for the Chronomaly back row cards worth mentioning. Like, I'm sorry, 800 attack boost down sounds nice, but it's not really that good. And what's this trap called? That summons from deck when a monster is destroyed. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna make a huge difference in the long run. Just don't bother with this one. Skill. Well, there's only really one viable skill for Chronomaly, and it's Gateway to the Another Dimension. This one, it basically allows you to bin any Chronomaly monster from your extra deck in order to make all your monsters on the field become that monster's rank. You can also send a monster from deck, but then you have to send a monster from hand. So it's not nearly as interesting. It does have some restrictions in terms of what you're allowed to play, namely only Chronomaly monsters and Chronomaly or light number monsters in the extra deck, but it's not once per duel. It's once per turn, and you can basically keep doing it every turn, so as long as you have material in the extra deck to bin for this skill. It's a really cool skin, I really like it. Probably there's some scenarios in which you bin Nebrodisc from your deck. I can't think of any though. Oh well. Conclusion! Chronomaly is a cool deck. I don't know, I just really like this archetype, and I want more people to know about it and maybe play it. Thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe in order to have more terrible videos on your YouTube feed. Please leave a like and a comment as well, saying something about Chronomaly, some interesting fact that I do not know about out of place artifacts, and I'll see you guys and gals and non-binary pals next time.